Hello, hello. Welcome to the last of this kind of little series installment of the Fantasy Cosmetica palettes. This is the Warlock palette. As far as I know, a Warlock is a male witch, right? Like a wizard almost. So I really like the artwork on this. Like I said on the first one, I love that the artwork is just so reminiscent of like if it was glass, like if it were made out of glass, like this is something you would see on a window. I think it's really pretty. I love the colors. And I really like how the colors also reflect the idea of what's inside the palette. You can see here there's like a little dragon, and they got horns. This palette definitely on the outside seems a lot more masculine, and I think if we are to follow what we think the outside says, we can kind of understand what's in the inside. So once again, it's just a slip-on cover, very simple. Taking it off, finding it exactly the same, and now for inside the palette. Again, you can see there that we have a mirror in here. Everything is completely covered in artwork. Let me try and pull this up, and here is the palette. It is a very colorful, very specific, I don't know if that's the right word, palette. When I look at this palette, I know the theme is supposed to be like Warlock, so I don't know if maybe these, and there's a little dragon here. I don't know if these colors were inspired by maybe like a dragon, but when I look at these colors, to be honest, it kind of reminds me of like a jester. Maybe even, I dare say, like the Joker. Like, I think it just has to do with the red and green, maybe? I don't know. But it is a very interesting color story. So I don't know if it's properly reading on camera, but what we have here in this section over here, these are all green-based shades. So we have like this sparkly lime green. This shade right here is also a lime green. It looks very yellow leaning, but it's not a yellow. It is a shade of green. I find out once I tried it. And then we have even more lime green over here. And you can see here, this is, I don't know if this would be considered multichrome or duochrome. I think it's a duochrome. It's lime green to gold. This one's just a simple, just lime green shimmer shade. And this one's more like a sparkly silver to the green, and then we have an actual just matte lime green, and we have a dark green. It's a very dark forest camouflage green. It kind of looks black, and in some lighting you might be able to see that because it looks so dark it almost looks black, but it is a green. So these five over here, 5 of the shades in this palette are green. So even though it may not look like it, 5 of the shades in here are inspired by this green we see here. Along with that, you'll see we have some red and some purple. And you'll also see some red here, but surprise, surprise, I've never seen a shade like this. And it reminds me of a cherry limeade because it is a red shade, a red base with green sparkle, green reflect. It's so interesting. Once again, a shade that I've not seen, and nor do I have in my collection as far as I've seen. And then these last 2 shades right here, I would describe this shade, when I look in the pan, I thought it was just a dark blue. Now that I've tried it on my eyes, I can see it's more of an indigo. It's more of that in-between kind of like jean color, which is like a purple blue. And then we have this shade right here, which is called Offering. Offering reminds me of the lead in a pencil. It's kind of got that gray reflective color in its shimmer. With the shades I liked the least in this palette, the shade I liked the least in this palette was this Offering shade right here. It didn't really have anything to do with the fact of how it worked. It was just, oh, I seem to have already gotten some sparkle on me. It's just the preference of color. I don't think look at that swatch. I don't think I really had an issue with this. I used a little bit on my outer corners. I didn't really get to properly utilize this shade, but I just prefer my shimmers to usually be lighter and my mattes to be darker. So that's kind of that's the only thing. It's just my preference of color, but I didn't have any issue with this. I think it's a very interesting color. I just don't know how often I would use and reach for this shade. With Profane, we'll do Profane, these 2 matte shades right here, and we'll do Pact. I had to build these up a little more, but again, it wasn't too much of an issue. I seem to have accidentally dipped in something else I shouldn't have. They weren't too bad. I don't know if you can see there, or if it's still catching yellow, but this on the eye, at least on my skin tone, did read more green than it did yellow. I do like this really bright green. This nice bright green is really nice. Generally didn't really have any issues with the mattes. I think the mattes overall in this palette are really good. I wore Eldritch today, this jean color, and it is intense. It is dark. Look at that. And this is one of those shades where if you want to place, you can place. You can place color on that, and you can also blend out. It is a very dark color. I think this other shimmer shade over here worked great. Picked on my brush. It worked fine. It worked out on my brush really easily. I didn't have to worry about it. We're talking about the money makers in this palette. We're looking at these two, baby. These two on here are the unique ones. These two in here are what makes this palette more expensive, because these are both so beautiful, so soft, first of all. And I was able to grab both of these on a brush. So this is this duochrome. So nice. Wow. Look at that. Gorgeous. And then we have this shade I have on my eyes today, because as you can see I'm wearing red. This color is so freaking cool to me. Like I said, it just reminds me of like a cherry lemonade. And it's a red base with like a teal green sparkle, just shimmer wave. So pretty. I think this red with the green, this one right here, that's my favorite color in here. I knew when I saw it, I'm like, that color looks special. It looks so special. We'll see if it actually works. And I feel like it did. Overall, how did I like this color story? Well, I'm definitely keeping it. I feel like my initial reaction is to say that this is number 2 amongst the 3 Fantasy Cosmetica palettes that I've tried. Who knows, maybe that'll change. I feel like I'm going to give the Fighter palette away. I'm keeping Warlock and I'm keeping the Droid palette. I feel like those color stories make so much more sense to me. I love how bright this is, and yet very wearable, because you realize how much green is in here and how much can actually work. Red is complementary to green, and then the blue I feel also complements the green. So it might look like it's kind of clashing, but I think overall all these colors work together. I didn't have any issues very much with the matte. I did have to spend for Profane and Packed a little bit more time just kind of adding on to make it as opaque as I wanted it, but it did eventually satisfy the way I wanted to do my makeup look. I love that they have these 2 shades here. They're very wonderful. They're gorgeous. I absolutely recommend this palette if it's something that you're interested in. So far we're 2 for 3. I really am loving these Fantasy Cosmetica palettes.